Welcome to the Athletes in Motion podcast, from race to recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
Hey, Kenny, how you doing?
I am fantastic. Tom, how are you?
I am fantastic as well. We have a wonderful guest today with us, Coach Sarah Portella. Lucky to join us. We're very, very happy to have you on. She's a friend of mine. She's here in Nashville. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, preseason into season, talk about this endurance exchange that we just went to, which USAT puts on. Lots of good education for us as coaches and good networking as well. But first off, our little bit of business. Thanks, everybody, for all your notes, your comments, and things. Keep them up. 5 stars, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Even the bad comments. If you've got bad comments, send those too. That's fine. We learned from that. We're trying to get better with this. This is January of 2025, 26. Look, we're already in 26. This is going into our 6th season doing this. I think this is episode somewhere close to upper 80s, almost 90. Have been having a lot of fun with it, getting better.
Absolutely.
Sort of. As we do this. So, keep up the comments and all that stuff that helps the algorithm and gets out, and share this with you. So we still have a nice group, a couple people in Portugal listening to us now, which is great. Thank you. And love our people in Germany. You've got a nice group. You guys are up there on the city chart every time. So we appreciate you very much. Send us a note.
Who'd have thunk it?
I keep
We're
saying
popular in Germany. We're like Hasselhoff of podcasts.
Yeah,
right
I know.
There.
It's up there in the top 5 on the cities on the downloads, which is pretty cool. So welcome, Sarah. Sarah is she's certified as a USA Triathlon, USA Cycling, and USA Track and Field coach. So she knows her stuff.
Triple threat.
And she works with Bolton Endurance Sports Training Group, which is led by Olympian and elite coach Ryan Bolton, who's an amazing athlete. They've got a really, really cool team of coaches that Sarah's been with since the inception of that. So it's been a few years with that. So she has quite the palmarès. I'm gonna skim over and just take some highlights because she pulls this off. She's USA Cycling Masters National Time Trial Champion for 2025, which is awesome. She's a USAT All-American multiple times, 5-time 70.3 World Champion qualifier. She's also the 2-time Tennessee State Time Trial Champion Cat 3 and road race champion.
Wow.
So 2 times as well. So she can back up her coaching. She knows what she's talking about.
And she goes fast too.
She's a great athlete. She's an uber cyclist. So Sarah, welcome to the podcast. We really appreciate you coming on. I hope I didn't embarrass you too much.
Thank you guys for the very kind introduction. I do appreciate that. Yes, like Tom said, I am a coach with Bolton Endurance Sports Training, and I have been coaching now since 2015.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Full time. Let's just she's a professional coach. She coaches full time, just like I do. So we're in this for the real deal. So
for sure.
So before you got to coaching, how did the journey start? Were you pretty athletic in high school? Were you a cyclist there? Track and field? Sounds like, I bet, track and field.
Yeah, I don't know how athletic I was, but I did participate in high school, junior high, in track and field and in volleyball. So always had some sort of sport background, even as a youth. And then when I started college, I just started running to stay in shape. Post-college, got into a really solid group of runners in Birmingham, Alabama, where I lived for several years. And within that group of runners, there were several triathletes. And so if you know anything, you'll eventually get sucked into that world. And that's what happened to me.
You lost a
bet. Background. Yeah.
You lost a bet.
Totally.
She's a fast runner, but have you tried running after cycling? Is that what the comments were?
That's what it came down to, right?
But you can run now. Well, what about after a bike ride, after swimming and biking? Prove
exactly.
it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. So and that's kind of where my journey began. Dabbled into duathlon first because I had a terrible fear of open water. And then I tried my first triathlon. typical fashion of an adult onset swimmer. I hated the swim, but I survived. And then going fast on the bike after that was just like thrilling. And so that kind of sucked me into the world. And then as I kept progressing, really got interested in coaching because in my roles in my other jobs, my favorite part of those positions were the teaching aspect of them. And so coaching kind of goes hand in hand with that, being able to teach or to just inspire other um, athletes to train and enjoy the process and race.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think before we get to the whole triathlon thing, I have to ask because, I was a Cat 4 guy. And how did you go from casually riding a bike to becoming state champion? Like, was it just, especially on TT, so you're not messing around. I mean, to your point, you like speed. When did you know, like, wow, I'm sort of beating people? Like, wow, I'm kind of good at this, especially as an adult onset sort of racer, if you will.
Yeah. After I'd say the first year or so into triathlon, I met a local coach and I'd started going to his track workouts and he saw some sort of potential in me that I didn't see at that point in time.
That's a good coach.
And he's like, I will coach you. Please let me coach you.
Mhm.
And so we started working together and this was strictly for triathlon, not for cycling. And just started training for longer events. And I still, at that point, I don't think I realized that I was good at cycling, but I definitely knew that that was my favorite part of triathlon. Not even just in racing, but in the training, being able to go far from home and see different things that you can see on a bike versus being in a car or running around town. And so I guess really fast forward a few years. It was coming off of a disappointing 70.3 race at my first World Championships. And it just happened, the finish of that race just happened to coincide with the Zwift Academy starting. And I don't know if y'all are
Yep.
familiar with Zwift Academy.
Yeah.
So I signed up for that just because I didn't want to end my season. I was just like, I'll just do these workouts. This will be fun, with absolutely no idea, about cycling at all, just for cycling's sake. So I completed that set of workouts. And at that time, you could kind of tell a little bit okay, well, I was getting all my gold stars in these workouts, if you know
Yeah.
anything about
Yeah.
Zwift.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was doing what they asked of me, but that was all I knew at the time. Halfway through the program, I got an email from Zwift saying, hey, you have been identified as one of the top cyclists so far in this program. Would you, if we select you, would you be interested in moving on? I was like, yeah.
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 So that was kind of the first point when I realized, oh, okay, I can actually ride a bike outside of just triathlon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fascinating too because when you're doing triathlon, you're 5 bike lengths apart. You have to make sure to do that. When you're road racing, you're now bumping shoulders and in a peloton, and trying to figure out position in a peloton, where to take the corner, where to take the line, how to get the right wheel. Who's the person to do that? Was that curve difficult, or was it? Why are you next to me? You were fast because you just want people next to you. That's all.
Don't touch me.
If you're in front, there's
Don't touch
nobody
me.
next to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so my experience is still up to this point was just triathlon and then riding my trainer.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. You're going
yeah.
isolated, and all of a sudden, here's 100
Yeah.
people that want to say hi to you, really closely.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I didn't make it past the semifinals. I did move on to that. And I foolishly didn't know how to train there was a gap at that time between the initial part, the semis, and then moving on to the finals. So I kind of botched my training and lost some fitness. And so I did not advance to the finals of that year. But that did inspire me to be like, okay, I need to go find road races and different things to do for the next year. And so that's when I started doing more cycling, getting into some crit racing, which was super scary,
Yep.
and just kind
Yep.
of learning as I went. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew like I needed to ride hard.
And that's
That's fun.
how most people, I mean, when you get into
Yeah.
it where you start to figure it out, but
Hmm.
like you're smart enough to go like you can observe and pick stuff up and then work with some coaches and start to, build a community that you understand the racing better. So, I mean, that's awesome to get that letter and move into the semis.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like,
cool.
yeah, I mean, we probably tell people more about the Zwift Academy about like this was worldwide, right? That they were doing
Hmm.
this and basically they were running races and tests to find, I think people went into the Pro Peloton from Zwift
Hmm.
Academy.
Yeah.
So this was a feeder system that they had created from, like, you've got how many thousands of cyclists around the world that are actually like competing in this together. So to get into the semis alone is just like, that had to be a nice bump in confidence to go like, oh, okay, I might be okay at this, right?
Yeah.
If I'm hanging here, this is pretty good. So that's pretty wild. That
Yeah,
is
the
pretty
irony
wild.
is, I went from crit racing and crashing to like, well, now I'm going to do triathlons because they're spaced out and nobody can crash into me. And you did the exact opposite. It's like I was nice and
Yeah.
spacey. Now I'm just going to go like, hey,
Yeah.
what's it going to be like to, bump into people and do a really, really fast ride that, somebody's going to
Yeah.
go home in an ambulance. Just hope it's not you. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
then
Kenny
you
also
moved on
did
to,
cyclocross too,
yeah,
because
which is fun.
that was
That's a ton of fun. I miss that. That's the one thing I miss is cyclocross because it's just really fast and you're forced to stay on a single track. So not a lot of bumping on that.
So how do you balance your season of racing between the cycling, the strictly cycling, really focused cycling, and the triathlon, which is really focused? I mean, you're qualifying for worlds every year at this point, and so you're nailing that part of it. And so how do you differentiate and how do you break your season up for that?
Yeah. So at least in Tennessee, things are pretty much spring. It seems like heavy in cycling events, or at least it has been for the past few years. So I've opted to do more cycling racing early on, have like a midsummer reset, and then focus later season in triathlon. And so that's kind of helped also like break up all the training throughout a season and not get too burnt out by the end
Yeah.
of the year.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously back off a little bit of running in the early part. Do you keep
Yeah.
the swimming up to a regular
No.
bit, or do you take it easy on that as well?
Yeah. So both swims and runs would be more supplemental during the early season. So at least keeping a feel for the water, trying to get into the pool once a week, twice a week if I'm super
Fulfilling it.
motivated, super motivated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's good
And then,
recovery. It's good recovery.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Do
what's
you
interesting
find that
about
sorry.
sorry, Tom. It's just
No, okay.
interesting because you're an adult onset swimmer rather than like you were swimming when you were 5 and you competed. Do you feel like from a coaching standpoint, you feel like you have a better handle on those people that are just starting a triathlon? Like, look, I know what it's like to like, be afraid of, to have that phobia of open water. Does that,
Yeah.
can you phrase it better? I think for people that are just like, well, why can't you swim kind of deal?
I can definitely sympathize, empathize
Sure.
Empathize.
with those swimmers for sure. Because and for those that are nervous that I coach, I'm like, I can tell them I was in that exact same position several years ago, and just being able to talk them through just the progression of that, and that it might seem scary now, but with just like keeping motivated to get back to the pool, do a little bit more than what you could before, and just take it in small chunks. At some point, you do start to get over that fear. Sometimes you might actually enjoy the water, and actually find it to be not intimidating at all, by the end of your journey, and be like, oh, what was I afraid of?
Yeah. I've always said I try to get people to not hate it. Like you
Hmm.
might not love it, but the goal is to get you to not hate it and that you be
Hmm.
okay in the water and swimming and doing that. So
Do you
that's
find that
always
most of
been.
your clients are that way, or what? If you were to look at a profile of your clients, what would be sort of? Are they people trying to get faster? Are they mainly swimmers that get into triathlon? What would be kind of your personas, if you will?
Yeah, I have a good mix. I would say the majority is always athletes that don't know how to swim or have a limited background in swimming. So that would be like the main thing because I think a lot of athletes also want to do a triathlon to see what it's about, the appeal of it, and they may not have come from that swimming background. But I do have some that have, and then they have a different set of kind of needs versus those that need to learn how to swim as well as finish a race.
What is your age demographic generally when are they in their 30s or 40s when they get to you? What
Yeah, I would say the majority of my athletes are anywhere from mid 30s to mid 50s. And then I have, some outliers of that. But in general, that's kind of the age range I've been working with.
Cool. So we just got back from the endurance exchange. The USA Triathlon puts on, and it's gone through. It has a history of different things. They used to call it Art and Science, and then there used to be this Triathlon Business International Conference, and they kind of merged it a few years ago, probably just before COVID, probably 16, 17, maybe 2018 or so. They merged, and it became the Endurance Exchange is what they ended up calling it, and USAT has taken it over. And it's coaches and race directors and athletes can go to this as well. I mean, it's a great learning experience, and it's like 2 days. You go Friday, a couple of sessions on Friday, all day Saturday, and a half day Sunday, or a little bit more than a half day on Sunday of lots of courses and classes, speakers, some really good stuff. And our keynote speaker, we just got back from this, it was in Orlando, and our keynote speaker, I'm going to pull up, was Rowdy Gaines,
Hmm.
who's he's an Olympian from 84 swimmer, 3 gold medals in swimming, and he's also has a great broadcasting career with I think he's with NBC at this point. And if you've never watched some of the swimming masters, pros, any of those events, you should watch it because if you're not a fan of swimming, at the end of it, you will be because Rowdy is so passionate about the sport. It's insane how crazy he gets. And if they set a record or they're close to setting a record, he's jumping up and down. They usually put a camera on him because he's very well spoken. He's a super, super nice person. So it was great listening to him. And I pulled up a quote from him that I thought was really good. So his quote was, "The water is not the problem. Fear is the problem." And that was perfect. He gave us good stories about his he was originally going to the Olympics in 1980 then we boycotted, and then he went back in 84 and he actually won the 3 golds at that point and then went into broadcasting shortly after that. So it was really fascinating on that. So there was a lot of good classes and coaches and things. So Sarah, was there any highlights that you got out of it that you can share with your athletes? I know we saw Dan Lorang, who was a speaker at one, and Dan is the Uber coach. He coaches, what does he ends up coaching? I'm blanking on names at this point, but
Lucy, Charles
Taylor,
Barkley,
yeah,
and Taylor
Lucy
Knibb,
Charles,
yeah.
Barkley, Taylor
Yeah,
Knibb. He did
those people.
Jan Frodeno.
Yeah.
He's been coaching for a number of years. He's the Red Bull team. He's actually Bora Hansgrohe now on the cycling team, but he had some good stuff. He was fascinating. So that was one of my favorite parts of it. But what were there any highlights that you
Yeah.
had from that?
Yeah. There were 2 sessions that I felt were pretty informational that I took away with some good insight. And the first was a discussion on protein and why endurance athletes need more than they've thought in the past. And so I guess the major takeaway is that we're probably all not getting as much protein
Mhm.
as we think we might be, just based on how it interacts with carbohydrate in our energy systems when we're exercising also. So there was some really good insights into that. And I'm excited to go back actually and rewatch that seminar so I can actually write better notes
Yeah, right.
compared to what
Yeah.
I took during the first go round. And the second one was I went to a Training Peaks modeled power metrics seminar, and they were just talking about they were moving a lot of their like WKO or N5 into Training Peaks and the beta charts. And so now having access to a more complete power profile will be available for, any coach that uses Training Peaks instead of also getting the UKO platform. And just seeing some differences there where you can pick and choose and see different power profiles than were previously available.
Oh, that's cool. Because that WKR, that was a separate app,
Correct.
right? That you did separately on it. That was a power thing. Now they're folding it all into. That makes sense. So if you do use Training Peaks, then there's some good modeling that's in there. And that any insight, I know there's some coaches that are all like complete data geeks that look at every single number. Then there's a few of us that like the data, but we use it as a tool along with rate of perceived exertion and that type of stuff. But anytime we get that extra data, those little pieces that I mean, I don't know if people understand how much we work on your plans and things behind the scenes where we're spending a lot of time every month on your stuff, right? So
Pay
it's,
attention.
we're watching, we're not, we're looking at some of those numbers and I'm looking for trends more than I'm looking for specific data because those little trends will give us more information and if we actually see one spike one direction or the other. So it's always fascinating that we're just kind of looking for trends and see what's going on in that sense. I had there was a couple good ones that I went through, but I don't have all the notes that I had out because I made one big note on my phone, so I had to skim through. But I did. There was two other quotes that I pulled out that jumped out at me. And Maria Simone is another coach that was there, and she was doing a talk on ultra distance races and was giving some tidbits and tips and things on and strategies for that and how to set yourself up. But she had said something that another one that rings with me about your mindset. It is a choice to be miserable. And this comes full circle, especially if you're doing an ultra like 100-mile race or something along those. But in daily life, this is important as well because it's your choice to be miserable.
Mm.
Like we're not perfect. We don't want to be toxic positivity. We don't want to be super, super happy all the time and bubbly because that's BS. That's not true. Right. But it's your choice. There's a lot of times that we have this victimhood, like we're victims and we're not. Right. It's just life is tough and we need to get through it and let's just kind of all get together. So that was something that really struck a chord with me. And then it was Dan Lorang's quote was the last one that I had grabbed that he said at the end of his presentation, and he was talking about teamwork, building a team around you as an athlete. And this is on the elite level, what they have. I like to do the same thing, work with a nutritionist, work with a coach, work with, swim coach specifically if you're working on certain things. Bring your people around you. His quote was, stay the author and fan of your own story. So, which I thought was really deep from, it was kind of cool. It come up. It's like, just stay focused. It's, on your story and doing your thing and like enjoy it. Make these choices. They're not sacrifices, they're choices.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
found that his stuff to be very interesting about how they converse and the team and the communication and how everyone needs to be on the same page. And he was brutally honest about the fact that like he's not necessarily friends with the athletes he coaches. He's friends with them afterwards, but when he's coaching them, he's not your friend. He's not your best buddy. You share a lot of information, but it's all about the athlete moving forward. So anything that they say or do is all about the best interests of the athletes. And he's not afraid to call something out if it's not in the best interest. So it's kind of neat that way to have that kind of openness. And Taylor Nibb was in another one with him speaking, and she was very open about some stuff. You can find it on the USAT Instagram. She had some very, very comical comments and things to that effect of the type of information she was sharing with him, which was hilarious.
Well, Sarah, that brings me to a question. So when you have different styles, right? You have people that are more data driven. How do you approach? I'm doing high rocks. I'm currently working with a high rocks guy, and he was telling me to do these like obscure, hip flexor motions, everything else, and I just had to stop for a second. I'm like, what is this leading to? And then he stopped and said, well, this is the why behind why you're doing what you're doing, right? And I needed that, right? So as you approach people, how quickly do you find, okay, this is a data-driven person. This is a person that needs their, sensitivity stroked. Do you approach it differently, or is it sort of you try to find people that fit your style, or how do you fit their style? What's the trick in that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. So, when I'm first looking to onboard, a potential athlete, That first conversation is super important. We both need to walk away with that having a sense of like, that was like a really great conversation. I could see myself coaching that person, or from the athlete's perspective, I really want to work with that coach. And so I think you can kind of get a good sense in that initial meeting whether it's going to work or not. And you also find out a little bit about that athlete there, like, first, like from their goals, what's their goal when they sign on for a race, for fitness, lifestyle change. And then you start to shape a little bit of a sense of like, okay, this is probably what they need or what they're looking for. And if it fits also within your parameters, you do shift, or at least I shift how I interact with almost every athlete based on like, as I get to know them, their personality and what their needs are. And so I wouldn't say that I change my coaching style for it, but I am sensitive of how they receive the information. And so that I think is maybe a good way to look at it, is you can still coach the way you want to and need to coach, but you can still interact with that person how they need to receive that information.
That's the communication part of it, right?
Mhm.
That's the thing. Do you have an intake form or something, or is it just part of your interview process with the athlete that you say, how do you want your information received? Like how often, what type of thing? Do you go into that much detail when you're talking with an athlete, a prospective athlete?
No, it's more through the conversation and the notes that I take. And then as we go through the process, you can also pick up a little bit of the types of comments they leave on their workouts
Mhm.
based on like, okay, you really did a deep dive into this session. Okay, like I need to make sure like when I'm commenting back, we're not, you know, giving platitudes of like, okay, well done. Cause sometimes that's all you need. But like sometimes you start to pick up, okay, this person wants a little bit more
Mhm.
detail because they've already analyzed their workout. And so they're they're looking for that reinforcement that you've analyzed that workout too. But no, I don't really do a questionnaire or anything
Mhm.
like that. But like through talks, we start to figure out, okay, this is what you need. I will, be able to like do this for you this way.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, like, when you say no to somebody, when they're, or maybe a better way to say it, when they're looking for a coach, is it better to match kind of style of communication? Is it better to match like, somebody that's going to push me? Or I guess it depends on the person, but at what point do you're like, hey, I may not be the person for you? Is it those guys that are doing like, I'm going to do 2 sprint triathlons in the early spring, and then I'm going to hit a full Ironman, and I expect to get 9:30? Do you go like, all right, or or is it more personality based?
I'd say honestly, it's a little more personality based. Typically, I can tell like if I have any hesitation within a talk, that kind of like raises my antenna that maybe we're not really a good fit for each other. And so I typically will hesitate with taking that person on. I would say one other big red flag is if someone comes to me and says, hey, I've never done a triathlon. I signed up for an Ironman in 3 months. We have a pretty big conversation being like, first, are you willing to maybe look at something else?
Are you totally insane?
Because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I can do this for you. Like that wouldn't be a good fit. But if they're flexible, and like, okay, I didn't realize this, and maybe they just didn't know, and they like switch it to a later season race, or are willing to do something else, then you never know. Sometimes those work out really well.
Yeah.
Do you
Have
like
you
the
ever,
kind that
ever
surprise you?
oh,
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, do you ever have one where you've said, no, I don't think that's the right thing, or that's too short of a goal or something along those lines. And then like a year or two later, have them come back to you and say, they've gotten stuff together, they've figured a few things out, and then you start working with them later on? Or is it one of those things where those red flags are enough to go like, yep, bye, you're out of my Rolodex?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think anyone that I've said no to, and I'm terrible at saying no, by the way. Like I have this like, I'm
Do it.
so yeah, so like the number of times I've said no is not that great. So I would also say with that, I don't believe, like thinking back, that anyone's ever come back
Yeah,
around and be like,
from
hey,
that.
will you coach me now?
But would you say most of the athletes that you start coaching are ones that have met you beforehand before they talk to you about coaching, so you kind of have an idea, or are you getting cold calls from people out of state that are just like they
Yeah.
heard good things and get through? Because that's a different relationship that you have to build, especially all remote, which is fine. It's easy to do. It can be done. We do it all the time. But sometimes when you're trying to learn about an athlete, trying to figure out if like are they telling you everything, reading between the lines, trying to figure is this like oh wait, you didn't mention that when we were talking earlier,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah. I've been really lucky with having a lot of referrals
Okay.
from current athletes. So I do have a good number of athletes in state in Nashville, but I do have a lot of out of state, a couple out of country that I've never met in person before. And so some of those relationships do take a little bit longer to cultivate, but not always, because sometimes if they're not local, you end up talking to them more because you do want to be really on the same page as you begin to set up a program
Yeah.
with those athletes.
Yeah.
So I don't find remote coaching or whatever you want to call it to be a hindrance. Sometimes it's actually more beneficial. I say sometimes like for folks because we're still communicating a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
It's easy to do that. I just thought like if you're getting referrals from people, then the odds are that you're gonna say more yes to stuff than no, right?
Yes, yes.
It's when you get in the one that's not a referral that just found you on Instagram or something where
Yeah.
it's just kind of like that's where you don't know them.
Yes. So I will say on that for a couple that have just reached out randomly, I will semi-stalk them.
Heck
Like
yeah.
just get a
Heck yeah.
background? Yeah.
I
You
look
know
Yeah.
I
they did
look for
that to
them
you.
on Instagram. I look to see if they have a Strava page, and different things just to kind of see, okay, who is this person? Do they have a background in sport? Et cetera, just
Are
so
they
I
a
have
stalker?
some sort of information of like when I go also into like chatting with them, I don't necessarily not want to know anything if at all possible.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you?
we don't
I've
want to.
always
Yeah.
wondered about coaches too. Is there a number in your head when you know this is too many people on your roster?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
find out the hard way, or did you know that, or do you just creep it? Because
Um,
you could like, I'll take on 25 people, and then you find, well, that was stupid, or I don't know what the number is. You don't have to disclose the number, but I'm just curious.
yeah, I would definitely say last year was eye-opening for me. I would say over the course of my career so far, I've had like a slow build, which is the way I like it because each year I've had more athletes, but it's been at a number that I was like, okay, I'm adding a couple. I can manage this. I have a good kind of time management, calendar in place. And then last year did challenge me a lot. I don't know if there was a boom. I feel like a lot of athletes came to me, but not just to me, to other coaches
That was a boom.
around. It was like it was a
Yeah.
big year and I onboarded a lot of athletes at once. And so the first couple of months was like, okay, did I bite off more than I could chew? But then like as you start to get in your routine with those athletes, you're like, this is totally fine. The structure starts to kind of pan out. You get back into a new routine and figure things out as you go. But yes, there are times where you can be overwhelmed for sure, but they typically kind of work themselves out in a good way.
Well,
Just
you also have
take
to
lots of
train.
notes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you have to train people
Yeah.
like us also on what appropriate, maybe the 11 p.m. freak out zone, because that kind of stuff.
I
And
well, I
yeah,
do put my phone on do not disturb at a certain time so that I'm
We have business
I
hours.
self-preservation. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I did learn that the hard way, and I think a lot of coaches start to learn things that work for them and how to manage it because in general we are on 24/7. Weekends are are very busy. And so I would be like right before I go to bed checking to see if anyone had texted or left an email that needed responding. And at some point that will wear you down. So you're like starting to set boundaries for yourself so that you have some quiet time and so you're not coaching from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I think and I'm trying to remember what coach had said it. And I heard that they said like their limit was when they can't remember the names of the athletes they have too many. Right. So you get to that point, like how many names can you remember? How many athletes can you keep track of in your head? Like if you start to forget who you have or certain names, then that's a sign that you probably have taken on too many. Right.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And one of the first coaches I had, someone came up to me and they were just kind of like, he doesn't know your name. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with that. It's cool. I'm getting a very low level from a higher level coach where he's just giving me a monthly plan and I'm just working on it. And I talk to him once a month. I was paying, not that much. So I was getting what I was paying for type of thing. But it was pretty funny because, he didn't know my name back at that point. And it was hilarious because it was just kind of be like, I'm like, I only see you once in a while. And you give me a plan and I say, I did it all. Now give me something for next month. And they give me something. So, but it taught me a lot back then. And that was years ago. So that was way before we had online coaching. So fun stuff.
Sarah, you got you're a running coach, track and field, tri and bike. Do you exclusively work with triathletes or do you have a kind of a cadre of different people you train?
I would say it's a pretty even mix. I would say like
Oh, no kidding.
a third are triathletes, a third are runners, and a third are cyclists. So I do have
Do you have a favorite child of the three? Or are you all equally loved?
No, I can honestly say I don't have a favorite. I love it all. And I think
Okay.
I like it more than
Sure, I love all my kids too.
Yeah.
I
No,
have
you don't.
three.
You have a favorite. I know you have a
You know
favorite.
which one. You know which one it is.
No, I like it because it brings some diversity
Yeah.
to my coaching, and training, a cyclist is so much different than training a triathlete or training a runner. And there's just so many different workouts you get to do with a cyclist
cool.
only. So like I get super excited. I get to do this with this person and then completely switch gears like for my runners and be like, ooh, I can try this with you because I don't think, I could do this with the triathlete, or same thing like with my triathletes.
So
They
you're a
can't do.
triathlete. You're a 3x3 then. So you do triathlons and then 3 coaches. So you're like the triathlon of. Oh, are you following me on this one?
Yeah.
She's like a three sport coach. You're like the triathlete of coaches.
Yeah.
And you avoid swim coaching. I noticed you didn't mention swim coach.
Yeah, she hasn't said that at all, has she?
No, yeah. I mean, I definitely would
Know your
outsource
strength.
that. I know my strengths, but also with that too, getting pool time, getting someone to let you come in and coach on deck
It's
is
tough.
super
Almost impossible.
So
these days,
and that's
really.
one thing. Yeah. Like with athletes that want that specifically, that can be like a point of where I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't coach you because I can't do this for you.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder, I think, to just find places that allow outside coaches to come in to train, right? Other than
I've
like
been thrown
rec
out
centers
of
and
all the good pools. So
yeah, open water. I mean, once the lake's warm enough, you can start doing that.
yeah.
That's Tom's territory.
I need help. Come on out.
By the way, he's
lots.
fantastic, right? I was
Yes,
you. I was an adult
absolutely.
outside swimmer, and my shoulder was killing me because I was using my shoulder way too much. And Tom got me to relax in the water, and I mean, crank it out 4,000 yards like it.
He's doing great. All open water. Yeah, it was all good. So you also
But
have
yeah, just like
athletes
you.
that cross over. Who is it that just he won the half marathon this past weekend? What was
Brian, which
Brian.
you fit him on his bike.
And he's coming back. He's coming on
coming back.
Friday.
Yes.
This Friday to refit on a new bike, I think.
I might try to sneak down there.
Oh, you should come down. Yeah, come down. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he did a fit on his first one, and he's done really well. He's a strong, very strong athlete. Yeah, it's nice. I kind of like athletes where you can do different things, where you can focus on just running for a bit or just cycling for a bit or just swimming for a bit, right? And then focus on just doing a single event. I think that's great, especially at this time of the year where you need to focus on your weaknesses. Hopefully your off season, you were like working on some some of the weaknesses. I hate to call them weaknesses, but some of the not your strengths, right? Yeah,
I think they're called weaknesses.
and
That's okay to say
they're
that
called
word.
weaknesses. Yeah, I
You
don't
can
want to
call
be
me
too
your
negative about it.
limiters.
Yeah, your
Limiters. There you
That's
go.
Your
That's a
see,
nice
limiters.
it's
word.
just
What a word.
we suck. We joke
Yeah.
about sucking at all three sports. Well, what's
Yeah.
what's the one you suck at more than the other two or
There you go.
something. But anyway, that you can focus on that. What is it that you're giving your athletes at this point? So athletes you have that have races in the summer, everything. We're coming out of the winter base training, or we're into the base training. What do you see, and what are you having your athletes do at this point in the season?
Yeah.
As we're January. This is middle of January at this
Yeah.
point.
A lot of them are itching to do faster things right now.
Base build
I've got,
sucks.
I
Zone 2
do,
sucks.
yeah,
Zone 2 sucks.
yes, I do try to break it up if I know that they are strictly on the trainer. So I give them a mix of things, but a lot of it is focused on just building endurance, whether that's zone 1, 2, or 3. I throw that in there to give a little variety. And
Throw them a
that's
bone.
mainly, yeah, exactly.
You can
That's
run fast now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's mainly on the bike. For running, it's a lot of aerobic endurance work, but they might get some strides to open up the legs, from, 30 seconds up to 200 meters kind of stuff, or give them some fartlek sessions so that they have some speed in the legs, but we're not doing anything that's gonna, make them tired for the next day. Like, they should still be pretty fresh by the end of that session.
Are you doing strength training too at this point as well in the base
Yes.
build?
Yeah. So a lot of my athletes right now are like their max strength phase. So we're also working on building some power for next season before we transition into higher intensity work. And then we take the load off in the gym.
3
guess.
days a week, 2 days a week. What do you?
And that's
or is
athlete
it does
dependent,
it
the
depend?
time that they have available to
Okay.
train and how much they love or hate
Yeah.
the gym, but they're all doing something
Most
in the
triathletes hate the
gym.
gym. Yeah. Yeah. With swimming, they put strength training right
Yeah.
with swimming of things that
Yeah.
they don't like going in. So for the cold temperatures, we have that. Is there like treadmill work instead of being outside, or do you just encourage being outside regardless of how cold it
Yeah,
is?
I don't really care, I guess, one way or the other. I'm always a fan of going outside for running, but it has been in like the single digits a couple times. So I totally understand if they're like, I don't have the right apparel for this. But most of my athletes don't mind running outside. And there are a couple that will do specific sessions on the treadmill. And we've kind of done that specifically just where we are in training, but the majority do a lot of things outside.
It's nice. Can I get back to the protein thing real quick? The only reason why I'm asking is because I'm a casual observer of like Velo News and post tour, the grand tours are done, and then they went back and they were trying to figure out why these guys were going so much faster. And again, if I'm wrong on this, correct me because I think I am. But there was a big kind of thing around doubling the carbs, during the races, like rather than kind of a heavier protein. I get it. I think most people don't have enough protein, and believe it or not, you can lose weight by increasing your protein, right? That kind of thing. But was there something about that? I mean, for the casual observer like me that says, well, that's interesting, they doubled it. Is there something to that? Or is there science that's starting to reveal that? I mean, Pogacar did okay on the tour, if that's what he's doing, right?
This is probably outside my pay grade,
Okay.
I was going to say,
but I will
yeah.
say it's not the protein intake during exercise. It's kind of what you're doing with your protein
Got it.
intake around the exercise. And
When to take it, and
in addition to like
what the amount is.
if you're under fueling while you're training,
Mhm.
that also affects those things. So yeah, the carbohydrate craze is also still fully in motion, and I think it's
That's been
yeah
scientifically
proven
proven.
and on board.
That's
Like, eat your carbs
Yeah.
when Yeah.
You're not fueling your workouts with
Correct.
protein.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
not work. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen. It's that kind of moving to that recovery part of it, which we've
Got
always
it.
talked about. Like you need to have your protein right after, especially if you're lifting weights, right? You want to get your protein, but you also need carbs. And we're finding interesting things about the fact that like if you have protein at the wrong time or you're having fats too early, it's the timing of the protein as much as how much you have. So you're fueling it. And we've got Corel coming on and we can talk about, because she'll be really detailed on the protein intake we can have. But they've bumped it up for athletes. Now they're starting to bump up the amount of protein you should be taking in on a daily basis for the average person that's not training or doing any of that stuff, which I find fascinating because some of it seems to be quite high for the average person.
Well,
It's not
maybe
that
it goes back
active.
to a broader question because you guys are probably getting crazy stuff like me. Like, I read on the internet, like, if I do a fast before I run, that kind of thing. Or, new fad here, right? If I wear a weight vest while I run, that should help me out too. I mean,
Oh,
how do you generally approach sort of, a little bit of crazy town on that stuff? Is it sort of like, hey, let's get back to the fundamentals, or how do you try to assuage those people that are like, I need to swim with floaty pants or those big puffy shorts to give extra drag kind of thing? How do you, I know both, this is for both of you as coaches, you probably get all sorts of crazy shit. So I'm just kind of curious how you deal with the crazy like me.
Tom, do you want to take this one?
There's so many, like the science has been there for
Mhm.
decades on what to do and how to build
Uh-huh.
progressive overload and kind of through. It's still there. It's boring. It's not sexy.
Yeah.
It's consistency over everything else. And like anytime there's a influencer on whatever social
Exactly,
media
right.
thing, it's all BS. And there's so many red flags that pop up. One of my favorites is that they have targeted exercises that you do. Forget the gym, forget lifting weights. Do these 3 moves to target the belly fat, to burn belly fat. It's just like, the body doesn't work that way. You can't lift this one piece of weight, whatever, twisted sideways and do this, and you're going to automatically lose body fat. It doesn't work that way. So it's try not to guffaw too much when someone brings it up about it, but we just try to point out the science on
Bring
it
it
and
back
just say,
to
look,
sort of like
yeah, it's like
consistency. I think that's
reality is it's boring. It's
Yeah.
absolutely boring. And when you're putting training plans together, I know you can buy ones off the internet or you can get free ones a bunch of places and you look at it. It's the same thing. You're going to have X amount of swims, X amount of bikes, X amount of runs, depending on the amount of time that you have. And then you need to hit certain workouts at certain times of the year and that type of thing. So your coach can help you dial that in specifically to you. But ultimately, it's the same thing over and over and over again. How are you going to get good at it, right? That's what it comes
That's how you
down
get
to.
good
So
at it. Yeah.
I kind of shrug, and I've had somebody tell me that they go on a 4 or 5 day fast, and they do this, and it was supposed to give them better performance and this thing, and they're doing a bunch of other stuff, and they were quoting some science behind it. And I just looked at it and I was like, great, if that works for you, knock your socks off, because there's no way I was going to change his mind. I'm like, here's somebody who's sitting here with, not excess body fat, but not as lean as you would expect somebody to be that's like not eating food for 5 or 6 days. And it's just, you're just kind of like, oh, there's a few people that I've talked to like that do a lot of fasted type stuff. And I'm like, well, how come you're retaining so much body fat? How much you're like, something's not lining up here. And they're like, well, my system needs to purge itself out and I cleanse myself. And I'm like, well, that's what your kidneys do. That's what your body does. You have organs that specifically cleanse. There's basic science that's been around for decades that refutes all of these influencers. Like I said, it's not sexy, it's not cool. So you just go for the latest greatest fad. Yeah. Like, sorry, there's nothing beats doing the work. Yeah. There's a great cartoon. I think it was in the New Yorker. They had 2 windows with people sitting in it, and it was like, and a line of people at just one of the windows. And it was like the results, and the other one was the work to get to the results. And everybody was at the results line. Nobody was at the work line to do the result, to get the results. So it's always fun that way. But that's my take on it.
There you go.
Sarah, I'm sure you're in the same
Yeah.
boat because we share a lot of the same.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I have too much to add to that. Um, yeah, I guess like when I onboard someone, I do give them like a general nutrition guidelines for like sport. And then like if they leave comments throughout training about not feeling well or like not being able to finish things, then we start like opening some dialogue about, okay, well, what did you do during training? And then we try to like work through some of those maybe inconsistencies or, um,
Hmm.
they thought they should have been doing this, but actually we need to be
Hmm.
doing something completely different.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Do you get many
sometimes it's
people
just
that
born out of ignorance, right?
Yeah. Do you get people that pull up athletes that pull up stuff and say like, I saw this online. What does this, what does this mean? Does this have any, will this work? Can I try this? Can I do that? Do you get that
Yes,
a lot?
not very often anymore. I would say early on, yes, and also maybe I didn't know as much at that time also,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not as much anymore.
Yeah. I always encourage my athletes if they've got questions about stuff, if they come up with something or they see a product or whatever, I'm open to talk about it. And I get people and some friends that are just kind of like, hey, I saw this. Does this really work? And I'm like, no, this one doesn't. This isn't it. And occasionally it's something like, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. And then, it gives me insight to look it up and, do a little research on it and go like, theoretically this might work, but I wouldn't spend the money on it. Or maybe this is cool. Let's get this. Right. The core temperature thing was one of those. Measuring your body temperature while you're actually training and working out. Okay, that's something interesting. That's some data that we can use. So yeah, there's always something fascinating that way
There you go.
as we go through. But cool. So what else, Sarah? What else is going on? What do you got races for this year? What do state champion again?
I don't know.
What?
I would be in one of those athlete categories where coach is probably like, come on, make up your mind what you're going to do for the year.
You haven't signed up for all your races. You don't have your travel plans, and I see you
Your
have the
A
big
race,
ass
your B
calendar
race.
up there in the
I
back.
have all
So
my tentative
like
ideas for the year.
tentative,
I
I love
haven't
it.
pulled the trigger on anything quite yet, but mainly the calendar for Tennessee at least hasn't been released for racing. So a lot of cycling
Oh,
events are
okay.
kind of up in the air, at least locally. So yeah, I don't know. Two things that are for sure penciled in are USA Triathlon age group national champs because they are doing a draft legal event this year. So we're going to
Ooh,
dabble into some draft
that'll be
legal.
fun. Wow.
And
Interesting.
then I've got like a crew of 12, I think, going to Wilmington 70.3 in October. Some will be doing the
Outstanding.
3 and some will be part of a relay team trying to incorporate my
Nice.
just runners and my just cyclists as well. So they're gonna learn some triathlon-y things.
That's
There
the
you go.
that's the
Yes.
gateway drug, the
There you
relay.
go.
It's perfect.
That's
It's
fun.
perfect. Oh, that's cool. Sweet. Well, that's nice. Well, I have to let us know what you actually sign up for.
Absolutely.
I'm in the same boat because I've got things penciled on my big ass calendar, so we're on that side, and I haven't registered for stuff yet because I'm actually gonna get a coach for myself this
Yeah.
year. For big plans that I have, and I want to run it by the coach before I start registering for stuff.
Good
So
idea.
There you
Good
go.
idea.
yeah, so talking. I'm doing my interviewing process right now for coaches for me for a couple
Well,
big for
you just
big
answered the
projects.
question. Does a coach get a coach? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
So there you go.
Sarah has a coach. Coaches get coaches because we still need that outside voice to look in and help us. I mean, it's like we can put the plans together and do it, but it's really nice to have like someone who's got your interest at heart, but looking at it from like they're not going to go like, it was okay, or I backed off a little bit or something. And someone to kind of not
Well,
just hold you
accountability is a big deal.
accountable. Yeah, a little bit on that, but to help guide you in like, here's a better workout for you. I have a big project. I'm aiming for big stuff in 2027. So I need a 2-year ramp up. So I've started the process to get through that. And I need a little bit of help guiding that so I can spend time on my athletes and not waste the time on me.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
it's nice to have somebody working on me. So I'm working on my athletes and I'm not wasting my time by just working on my stuff. So that's how I'm approaching it. So big things to come. We'll make announcements later on and talk
Ooh.
about it as I get it settled in and all of that. I'm going to try to hurt myself before I'm 60.
There you go.
All good stuff. All good stuff. So Sarah, thank you for joining us. This
Yeah,
was fun.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I know it's up late. We're a little late tonight, so we appreciate you taking the time and
Yeah,
coming
for
on.
sure.
And we had a great weekend in Orlando at the Endurance Exchange. Got to talk to a lot of great folks. So everyone, thank you again for listening all around the world. Keep giving us the thumbs up and all that stuff. We'll put Sarah's contact information, Instagram, and all that good stuff in the notes. So that's down there. If you need a coach, Sarah's great. She's really good. She's got lots of room for tons of athletes. I think she'll take on everybody, right?
That's
she
what we
won't
heard.
say no, is what
She
I
doesn't say
heard.
no.
So actually swimming, all good. But no, seriously, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And thanks everybody for supporting us and listening to the podcast. We appreciate you all. Kenny, it's been great.
Always pleasure.
And everyone, we'll catch you on the next one.